Welcome to the Date Forever podcast. Keep your relationship fueled up with strategies discovered by couples and experts. Because at Fuel Collective, we believe better relationships will equal a better world. You are about to discover specific insights and tools that cost little or nothing to implement to help you date forever. And now, here are your hosts, a couple who always have a half-packed suitcase and a date night in the calendar, Sammy and Nathan Yeager.
Hello and welcome to Date Forever. In this week's episode, we're chatting about unpacking childhood trauma, why a relationship is a great place to heal emotional wounds, and identifying behaviours or thoughts that aren't serving you and changing them. But before we get into that, Sammy, what's been fueling you up this week?
So I love it when my friends become friends. Yeah, I think it's the best thing ever when you take two people from two different parts of your world and then you introduce them and then bam, they become friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has happened to me. I've got a girlfriend who lives in Perth and a girlfriend who lives in Adelaide, and I live in Sydney. And the three of us have probably all been in the same place at the same time less than a handful of times, like less than five times. But they're two of my most beautiful friends, and they have now become friends, and on Sunday they conspired together to host a little Zoom date, a little paint and sip by numbers, because we can't all be in the same place at the same time still. Yeah, so I had a really lovely afternoon painting, sipping, chatting, hanging out.
Oh, it sounds really nice.
Yeah, it was really great. And it was double fuel up because it was a surprise for me that they organised and the package just arrived. The activity itself was really lovely. Yeah. And just seeing that they've established their own friendship now, and that was really nice. So it was like triple fuel up. Amazing. Yeah. So that was one thing, but also we did our annual game plan.
Yeah, we did.
But I'm guessing that might be your fuel up, so I'll let you talk about it.
No, well, my first fuel up was going to be that we've started to go on a house hunt to move close to the beach. So
yeah.
If
you listen to the show, you've probably heard us suggest that we should move.
It's been a long time coming. So, yeah.
We started talking about moving before we went on our big Europe trip 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, we did.
And we're still here.
Yeah, we're still here. But it's time. So we've finally actually gone to some open inspections and sussing out where we might actually want to live, which was really exciting. So it was just really nice to go exploring with you and check out a few houses, a few ship boxes. And
and be reminded how ludicrous Sydney real estate is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But no, it's good fun. I'm really excited for the future and excited for the change to come.
Oh, I love that was your fuel up.
Yeah.
Universe, bring it to us. We are ready. We have got moving boxes.
Yeah, we have. But yeah, the other one was doing our annual planning, and I think out of our annual planning, one of our big goals for next year is to move house. So it all kind of ties in together and ties into our bigger plan. And yeah, and it was really great to sit down, kind of do a bit of a recap of what was 2021. It's a bit crazy to say that it's almost over, but it kind of never started. But yeah, just to recap what was 2021, kind of reflect on that, learn some lessons from it, and then have a fresh new start going into 2022 with some really massive goals.
Yeah, we did. We kind of wiped the slate clean, didn't we? And
yeah,
set some new intentions for 2022. Maybe we should do an episode just about that whole process.
Yeah, maybe we should.
Yeah, if you want to run your own planning day either for yourself or in your relationship, I cannot recommend it enough.
I was actually surprised at how good our framework was when we were working through it. So
using our own tools that we built.
That's it.
Yeah, but if you want to swipe our agenda, meeting prompts, templates, checklists, something that you can have some conversations but you don't feel so aimless, a little bit more structure, and that you will actually get outcomes out of setting aside the time, you can grab all of that at fuelcollective.com.au/AGP, annual game plan.
Yeah. But now here's this week's guest.
Today we've got Jessica Velazquez joining us. Jess is a no bullshit alchemist who's been empowering people for 24 years to come back to their true self. As a spiritual mentor and trauma coach, her passion and calling is to support those struggling with their self-worth because of childhood trauma. She is globally sought after by those who are stuck in toxic patterns, trapped in people-pleasing, and tired of censoring themselves for others. She is the founder of Healing with Jessica V, as well as Sacred Rebel, a 3-month virtual transformational program with live elements. She's also the creator and pioneer of an online empowerment movement called Soul to Soul. Welcome to the show, Jess.
Thank you. I'm so grateful to be here.
We are so excited to have you here because you have a story to tell.
I have a bunch of stories within stories.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what I would love to, normally we would start at like someone's beginning, but I want to start with your like end state. Like, where are you now and what are you doing right now?
Oh my gosh. Okay. Where am I now? I am fucking amazing. How about that? That's where I am right now.
That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Like fully owning the hell out of every aspect of who I am and what makes me me, unapologetically not giving a fuck. How about that? That is exactly where I am. Not tolerating any more censorship and editing for the convenience and comfort of anybody else, and just being me, knowing that those that I am called to support and vibe with will find me, resonate with me, and those that are not, it's fine because I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
So I am just jamming out, supporting people with trauma, especially as it relates to childhood trauma, and helping them get unstuck and rewiring the neural pathways of their experiences in their day-to-day so that they can finally unleash as well and not be in this constricted state, not being true to themselves, and really causing themselves so much internal stress, which ends up manifesting in illness as well.
Yeah.
So helping people heal and be empowered to live their unapologetic badass self too. Yeah, and be able to do that without the hesitation of what this is going to appear like to anybody, but truly just seeing themselves and prioritizing themselves and having this relationship with themselves that is really the bottom line and the foundation to live, period, blissfully. It's the connection where they have disassociated with themselves and getting back to those places of disassociation because of childhood trauma. So in trauma as a child, you disassociate, you learn to compartmentalize, especially places where you've been shamed. And so, so teaching them to, let's get back to the essence of who you are before the world told you who you needed to be. And so, so I'm supporting individuals like that, badass, amazing, brave souls all over the world. And just
and you're fucking amazing.
Yes. And in my bliss doing that. And so that's,
So my hypothesis here is that somebody doesn't get involved and motivated by doing childhood trauma work without having first experienced some childhood trauma.
Yeah. And that can vary in intensity. Some individuals think that childhood trauma has to be just this like verbal and physical sexual abuse and violating experiences. And no, it could actually just look as like, they grew up in a pretty decent home, but even being raised in a complacent environment where you're taught to mind your manners, cross your T's, dot your I's, and suppress your truth, suppress your feelings so that it did not bring disruption to your environment, to your atmosphere. Even that is traumatic too. And it is squashing the essence of who you are. And most of the time in my work is just helping people to see that your parents, they really didn't know any better. They did the best that they could and assuming positive intent in there. But if a parent doesn't do their work, they're only going to continue to pass on this generational trauma and experience. And a lot of times as a parent, we project things on our kids and we don't give them the space to be their true essence because we're uncomfortable ourselves with our own shit because we haven't healed it.
Yeah. So there was a time before you were fucking awesome.
Yes.
Let's go like way back because you've been on a journey to get to fucking awesome. Tell us a little bit about that.
My relationship with myself. Like I knew that I was meant for more. Like I always had this knowing, but I didn't know how the hell to attain this. how the hell to ever get like connected to this so that I could be in this flow and this vibe of fucking amazing. And it cost, many years of discovering and being in this place of depression, at times suicide, even of darkness. And what it came down to was looking externally for my worth, for my validation, for evidences that would approve of me versus having that connection within. And so that is the game changer, is healing my relationship within myself, because the way I was raised, I was not allowed to have a damn opinion. I wasn't allowed to have an experience. I wasn't allowed to have expression of self. I didn't know who I was. So I didn't really get to discover that until I got older and became a mom myself, actually. I tell it, my daughter put me on this fast track of personal growth like nobody's business, because it was like, oh shit, I'm responsible for a life. What the hell? Like, I better get my shit together. And what I thought would maybe be like just maybe a couple months of doing some inner work with a therapist turned into, here I am 17 years and I still have accountability.
I've heard friends say similar things at their turning point of having children, and that it like somehow flips this switch that it's like, oh fuck, I got to get my shit together. And you said it really interestingly there. You're like, oh, I'm responsible for a life, as if you weren't responsible for your own life before
Yes.
Like
Yes.
what? You were always
the way-
responsible for
yes.
life. Now you're responsible for two.
I love the way you say that, because that's how much of a disassociation. Yes, I love the way you put that. Right. And all along, I was responsible for my life, but I wasn't backing myself up. I was allowing other things to back that up, thereby giving away my power, so to speak. I'm not realizing shit, all along my power's within, and it's always been there.
Yeah.
So
you kind of alluded a little bit there to the environment that you were brought up in, but from what I know about you, that was connected to the church.
Yeah, well, eventually. So no, I grew up in a Catholic home, but not like really practicing hardcore. And yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. When I was about 10 or 11, I was going through confirmation and I had already done my communion. So here I'm on the third sacrament, baptism, communion, going to be confirmed. And this was when I was like, this is not jiving for me. This is not vibing for me. I don't want to do this, but I'm going to be the good kid that's, respectful. I got to do this to honor my family. And I was sitting across from the priest, and the priest said to me, go ahead and share with me your sins so I can, he was going to tell me what I needed to do to be absolved. I'm forgiven. And I looked at him straight and dead in the face and told him no. And he was like, obviously this is his first experience of like this. What is this kid telling me?
Rebellion.
No, I'm the priest, yeah. And he was like, what do you mean no? And I said, I don't know even why I'm here, other than I'm doing this for my mom, my family, but I don't want to be here. I don't want to tell you my sins because I've been talking to God myself, and I don't understand why you, being so human, just like me, gets to tell me what I need to do when I have a direct connection with God myself. And he was like, oh. And so that was truly my essence, to honor myself. And I, got a beating. I got the consequences to that, but it was worth it. And that was probably like the most impactful moment of shift, that I was like, wow, I don't align with everything I'm being taught. And some stuff doesn't work for me. And I don't like this. And I was starting to discover my voice. And now, mind you, I grew up in a very Latin home. Like, loyalty is everything. And so you do your shit that you're supposed to do just simply because you're in this family. And we're tribal. So everybody does XYZ. Everybody does this, And so that was, pretty ballsy as fuck, basically, for my 11-year-old self. But anyway, it taught me that in that moment of like, ooh, that felt really amazing. Though I did not want to be disrespectful, but I wanted to honor myself. But I grew up always spiritually connected really deeply in my relationship with the divine. And that continued to evolve in my journey to the point where I went to Bible college and had this amazing, incredible experience. And it has played such a huge part of who I am today. However, the evolving that was happening as I was in this experience also started to not fit within the construct of dogma. As I was taking on pastoral leadership responsibilities, and I was feeling like this box again. So my journey truly has been a reflection of not wanting to do the shit other people wanted me to do because they thought I was supposed to. Really, it's been grew up with my mom, with a single mom, and realizing, man, she did the best that she could, and it was like amazing and challenging at the same time because she was passing down cycles and patterns that were toxic. My father, an alcoholic, and so there was quite a bit of abuse there in those both in my experiences with both. But again, they're doing the best that they could as well. So it took a lot of years for me to come into a reconciling place with not feeling like I'm disappointing anybody by being me, because that's what it constantly felt from my childhood all the way into the church world.
So we know that you're not a pastoral leader now and that you've taken a pivot and you work with people who have got this trauma. But tell us about that transition. Like, how did you transition from doing this study to where you are now?
You know, I realized how my relationship with God has been everything. And I cultivate that damn thing my fucking self. Nobody is in that shit with me. I call it, and I've shared this from time to time, there is no spiritual threesome happening here. It is God and I. And the reality is at the end of the day, it's always been God and I. It's always been God and I. And so the transition of, I am with this purpose and this passion and this mission and this calling that's bestowed upon my life that does not need the construct. It does not need the approval of anybody but myself. And it doesn't have to look like in these certain parameters. And I refuse to be put in a certain box of anything. And that's what I was trying to do in my discovering of myself. Okay, do I fit in this construct? Do I fit in this one? All along, no, I'm not going to fit in any of those things because I'm going to do my own thing. So I am serving in a spiritual, powerful, epic way, helping humanity in that regard without the church walls there to put me in any box, because fuck boxes.
Yeah, fuck boxes.
So how did you go about actually discovering who you were as an individual rather than trying to fit into one of these boxes?
The discomfort of being confronted with that constantly, with the challenge of, it got sickening. It got sickening. And it was eating me alive inside to not be who I am and to be walking on eggshells and to be so sad that someone was disappointed with me and then me be sad about me disappointing them and then disappointing myself. And then I was getting resentful and so bitter and angry. I was getting bitter and angry that, damn it, why the hell am I disappointing so many people? And there was such self-hate being created because of the meaning I was giving to the messages people were giving me. There was so much weight versus the messages that I needed to just pay attention to for my damn self of who I say I am.
I think that's quite common of people who have self-sacrificed and self-sacrificed and self-sacrificed and self-sacrificed to please and fit in with the environment that they're in or the family they're in or the belonging, whatever their tribe is and whatever their community is, that sense of self is like nothing. They don't really know who they are. So for you, was that pivot of I need to figure this out having your child?
No, actually, it started before. I think that was what took it to the depth of levels of, let me get some support now because I can't do this by myself, was with my daughter. And it was too scary. But before, it was already trickling. The frustration, the anger was already there. I felt the not being good enough for my mom, not being good enough for my dad, not being good enough for, friends not being good enough for that had expectations upon me in school, those who my instructors in college, like not being good enough, and just that was already starting there. And I was getting like angry, and because I was like, shit, no matter what I do and how hard I try and how quote unquote perfect I'm trying to be here, somebody's freaking disappointed. And it was very defeating. And so that's when I was like, this can't possibly be the way that a human needs to live. Like, it's just not okay.
Especially
to the point where
if you're disappointing all those external people while also disappointing yourself.
Yeah, it felt shitty. And here I am like ruminating on it to only feel not motivated, but shittier. And so it was like, I don't know. So it was already like me questioning, this is not working. And then me having my daughter was like, I need support because now I am responsible for a life. And my bullshit, I do not want her to carry out. I don't want to do the passing down of generational crap. I don't want to do that. And what do I need to do? So I took accountability is what happened for the stories that I was telling myself and allowing myself to stay stuck in. I took responsibility for whatever bullshit from my parents to their parents to their parents, and it was going to stop with me. I'm going to do the work. I am going to figure this shit out. I am going to give my daughter a different experience. I am going to make sure that I face everything that's uncomfortable because I know this is not how I'm designed to live.
Yeah.
So what did that, real dating yourself, rediscovery of self look like? You said you meant engage some support. Was that like coaches or did you therapists? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, along my journey. At that time, it was this, it's so funny. I think back because I've worked with so many people now, but it was a little old man who was so powerful. And he did a bit of hypnotherapy with me. We did talk therapy and some hypnosis, and it was powerful. So that began my journey of trust for another and like trusting someone to support me in my shit without feeling shame. And that's what started it. And I was like, oh, okay, this is, and my soul just continued to draw me. And I realized, okay, this is what I need to do. And mind you, I thought it was only going to be for a couple months to figure to
get in, fix the wiring, shut the door again.
Yeah.
I'm good, I'm fine. And here I am 17 years later, and I just can't imagine what it would be like to not have consistent support. Yeah, the unbecoming of, bullshit, the unbecoming of stuff, and really to just connect with the essence of who we were designed to be when we came into this world.
So Jess, I know that through your dating yourself journey and rediscovering who you truly are, you had a realization around your sexuality. Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, revolutionizing. So in the midst of me discovering all this stuff, right? It was like the boldest decision of my life is probably what I would call it, to rebel. The boldest. I was in the midst of getting divorced with my ex-husband. And we had been married by, I don't want to say 6 years or so, 7 years or so. And I was not happy. I was questioning things. And yeah, I was just not okay in our fish in a fishbowl environment in church world, ministering together, having our baby girl. And that transition made me question even more my faith and all this. And so here I am, getting divorced. My best friend, who I started having these awkward feelings for, that I am like, what the hell happened? I am getting punished here. A demon has entered me because this is foreign. I had never had a desire to be with a person of the same sex. Like it just wasn't in my wheelhouse. Never had nothing. So I thought, oh, for sure I'm getting punished because I'm getting divorced, because I'm turning away from the church, letting them down. Like I've had all these crazy things in my head of judgment. And it took a minute, and I was like, maybe it's a phase. I went on a fast for 30 days. I interviewed gay pastors. I was like on all out discovering of what is this, to find again, me. what is this within me? And what it came down to was I had this vision of myself in a casket, powerful spiritual moment in this room. And it was, who did I live for? That was the question. Who did you live for? And what was the value basically of your life? Like, what did you do while you were here? Did you do everything to appease everybody else? Or did you stay true to yourself? Even if it looks different than what you've always fucking known. And that's what it was. It was like, oh my God, this is so different. I have no idea what this is going to lead with if I pursue this with my best friend. There's no guarantee here, the outcome. I don't know what the hell this is supposed to look like and feel like, but I desire to be with this amazing 5'7", beautifully hot, incredible soul. And I just we had so much fun together. And I was like, oh my God, I am going to screw my kid up. All this work I've done and I'm going to screw her up now. That's what was coming in my head too.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
No, I want to continue your story, but I know that a lot of women who have this turning point in their sexuality, especially if they start becoming attracted to women and that's not something they've experienced before, they talk about this like, well, I don't know if I was admiring her. I didn't know if I wanted to be her friend. I didn't know if it was an aspirational thing. And then like just truly owning like, well, no, I'm sexually attracted to her. And I've got romantic feelings. That's there's quite a transition of things because it's foreign. So
it is. It was completely unknown to me. And the timing of my life with this happening, I thought it was like, oh my God, like, what do I do with this? Like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, what's happening to me? And who can I trust that is not even associated with the church world? Because this is like taboo to do, like from an evangelical perspective. Like it's, I preached against, homosexuality. I preached against this. And what kind of damn hypocrite am I going to be? And it was the best. So what I always say is God gave me the most glorious gift of eating my own shit. It's exactly what happened. And
look in the mirror, Jess.
Yeah. So here I am, it's been 15 years. There wasn't a fucking phase. The love of my life. Like this is, I'm so like grateful. And the conviction that came down to me pursuing something so bold and opposite of, I was about to lose my credibility, my career in ministry that I've worked so hard for, my reputation. I was about to have who knows what kind of the slander, the ostracizing, like all of it. I was about to face all of this, a child custody battle that like cost me almost my life. All of that to stay true to myself and follow my heart. And the question, the conviction was, what would you tell your daughter? And if she's ever in this kind of a predicament, could you ever, without any reservation, face her to follow what's true to her if you yourself did not do the damn thing? That was what the conviction was that said, you know what? Fuck everything that is going to try to keep me from my true self. I'm going to do it for my baby girl because she deserves to see a woman follow exactly the design that is called upon her life without reservation. And so that's why I did it.
Yeah, Jess, I love what you just said there about your daughter, because all of the reasons for you to do it or all of the reasons for you to not do it, you could have chosen either path based on, well, this is in service of my daughter. You could have chosen, well, I shouldn't do it because of custody and the thing and the dynamic and her whole world will fall apart. And that could have been all of the reasons to not do it. But you flipped it and through the lens and the story, you're like, it's more important. This is more important of values and alignment. And I think when you go against your gut, nothing good happens. And
no, yeah.
Yeah, and you went with your gut and your heart.
I most certainly did. And it was scary as fuck. When you have everything pointing to this is not the way to go, except for the only thing was within me. It was within me. That is why it is so damn important. And I'm sharing this, like stressing this for all your listeners. It is so damn important to know who you are, like within, connect with yourself and have that relationship with yourself. because that's what needs to be the guide within whatever you do, not externally, but within. Because what happens when everything looks and points to that's so like not familiar and it goes opposite everything contrary, but there's a pull there intuitively, you have to give into that damn pull. You have to.
So Jess, you mentioned obviously that early on you were trying to people please, that you were like seeking all of that external validation and still not getting it really, like that everybody was still disappointed in you. So how has this journey of self-discovery and you fully embracing yourself actually affected your relationships with others?
I don't draw energy from the validation with the intensity that I used to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
It's secondary.
Just not thirsty for it.
No.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's kind of like, this is who I am. I love me. I don't give a shit if you love me now. Like
Your love is extra.
I'm good. So it's very much, and I just unapologetically, I love my damn self and such an incredible, and because I foster and cultivate that though. I just had a mind-blowing, amazing photo shoot with an incredible woman, Wendy. Those are that's a way to own who you are. Like even photo shoots, like falling in love with yourself instead of like seeing all what's wrong. How about you see how much like is right and the badassery that makes you you. And so like even photo shoots, cultivating a connection with myself, with my inner child. And that's the work that I do as a trauma coach, is helping people connect with their inner child, reparent the inner child. So talking to myself is like everything. Talking to myself, giving myself that validation, just like I'm talking to you, like talking to myself. I will write to myself. I will say things out loud. I will affirm. I have shit on my mirror in my bathroom. I am talking to myself so that that has to be first and foremost beyond anybody. And anybody's, validation is like cherry on top. But I don't have this like drawing of a need and be thirsty for it. Because if you do, when it's not there, it has the same power to deflate you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's super interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, Jess, I want to dig a little bit into the work that you do. So
Sure.
We've had a psychologist on the show before who's talked about this idea that we've all experienced trauma. Everybody has experienced a version of trauma, whether or not it's trauma with a little t or trauma with a big T. It's kind of how she explained it, the spectrum. But what we know is that when we've experienced some sort of trauma, there's some triggers that are things that can trip us up. So I would love your sort of insights on what is a trigger?
Yeah, a trigger is an emotional charge. It's an emotional charge that can vary in intensity. So it can feel negative, and I say negative, but it's not really negative. But because emotions are just a state, it's energy in motion. So a trigger can happen. It can happen from like, you're feeling fine. And then all of a sudden somebody says something and now you're feeling like a bit annoyed or bothered. It could be something, slight. So there's a little charge there that makes you shift from one state that was comfortable and pleasant to a kind of like, I don't know here, state. And it could be subtle or it could be really big. Somebody starts yelling and you're like getting scared, and it might come off with you yelling back. And it's because you're like, really, there's fear there. So you're like yelling back to defend yourself, So it could be loud, it could be subtle, but nonetheless, it's a charge that's happening.
Those things that sort of trigger that fight, flight, freeze.
Yes.
Sense.
Yes. It makes you you're not grounded. It makes you have like a hyper vigilance and a hyper alert to something. And it's like, you're totally like you lost your focus on whatever was keeping you calm and you were cool. Then all of a sudden you're like, and then you create stories. There's stories there attached to the triggers. And so that's where reaction could become an issue. So yeah, but really triggers are amazing feedback to do the work. So they seem like they're bad because it doesn't feel good. But if that could be reframed as I'm triggered here. Here's an opportunity for me to see there's something deeper within me that wants healing, because that's what it is. It's a wound that's coming up that's not in your awareness consciously, but it's within your subconscious mind. So I call that the basement. So it's like lingering in the basement there, and it wants to come to the first floor. But you have to be willing enough to be able to see the trigger and not from an attached place to defend it, but with curiosity.
And I think to go like way back to what you said at the beginning about taking accountability when you're experiencing something like that and not projecting it on blaming or excusing or denying, or that it's the other person or the other thing, or it's the external thing that is at fault for you experiencing that trigger. I think that's...
It's the meaning.
I've heard those triggers kind of described as like, it's a signpost that you need to go in that direction and lean into whatever it is that has just happened there. And why is it that, for me, a really big one is if I ever experience a sense of feeling excluded, that is like, I'm still working on it and I'm trying to get better at, but it's something that I had experienced something in the workplace, and I was debriefing with my coach, and she was like, hey, just an idea here, but have you ever experienced times in your life where you've been excluded? And I was like, yes. And she's like, well, I think that you're actually responding to that accumulation of moments of exclusion in this moment. And it's not really about what's just happened in the workplace. It's probably about all these other things. So let's dig a bit deeper. But without that, without that ability to zoom out and look at the bigger picture, and I think you called it reparenting your child and your inner child and your past experiences. What I would love to know is, how do we then unpack that hurt, and especially if it's keeping us stuck?
Yeah. So one of the things that's important to do is when there's a trigger, when you are triggered, when you're bothered, even if it's just slight, it's still a trigger. You might not be full blown angry or something, but even when you're bothered. And so what's important is that you do not judge yourself. Do not judge yourself for it, because we all have triggers. We are, we're human. It's part of the human experience. And so we are all going to be triggered in some way. And so with that said, though, while we're in this trigger, is if we could have like this outer body experience, instead of going into judgment, have this out of body experience and serve more like a witness. That's interesting. I'm being triggered by that. Why do I care? Why does this bother me? And some questions also to help unpack is, who does this remind me of? This experience, when you're in the experience of a trigger, who is this reminding me of? Why is this dynamic familiar? And just really being inquisitive, like collecting data so that you can get to the depth of it, because that's what things are. The charges are really not even about the experience. It's because of what's within your nervous system already embedded from your experiences as a child that are coming up in full force. And so to get unstuck, I can't stress enough the amount of support that's necessary for an individual to truly get unstuck, because we can only take ourselves so far. But hiring a coach is so extremely important. And especially in a relationship, having individual support, because your person cannot be your safe space and that's it. It actually will cause more strain. So having support is extremely important to get unstuck. And it will not only help you connect with you in a more powerful way, but it will serve so much massive value to your relationship if you do the work with somebody individually.
What happens if we don't do it? What happens if we've got two people in a relationship and they've got their shit and I've got my shit and we're both not dealing with our shit? What happens?
You will be on a hamster wheel and it will continue and continue and nothing will change, because nothing is fucking changing. That's it. Like, you have to take up accountability, and one of you, both would be ideal, right? But one of you will have to say, you know what, hold on, I'm willing to look at my shit. And hopefully it'll inspire the other person in the relationship to look at theirs too, because it's never about everything is just one person's fault. No, this is a co-creating dynamic here where you both have a pattern that you're triggering each other. And it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful, beautiful experience to have with another individual in such an intimate way, because it's that you're so close and intimate with this partner That is why there's the intensity of some of the triggers, because they're in your space and there's high stakes here involved. It's not just some random Joe Schmo on the street, kind of thing. Like, it's like, whatever. This is someone that's in your space up and in, like, so you're doing life together. Well, yeah, if nothing changes, nothing's going to change.
And here's your invitation to go deeper. Your shit has rubbed up against my shit, and it's time to go deal with our shit.
Let's do this. And you know what? I am so for like individual work and then also together, doing things together. It is hard as fuck at times. Lots of shit, but it doesn't have to be this like where you're not enjoying while you're also going through the hard shit either. Like, it can be it is an opportunity always, an invitation always to deepen your connection, to be vulnerable. And the problem I see in a lot of like connections and couples is there's such fear of putting the masks down to be vulnerable because, oh my gosh, what if my partner sees me, the real me in this way? Will they still love me? And really comes down to just putting the masks down, let them see you, because don't you want to be authentically loved? We cannot authentically love someone that we don't fucking know. So we're only robbed when we are putting these masks and not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Let your partner know. This pisses me off. This, I feel scared. Oh, even that sentence, I feel scared. Like, try that on. Like, and how does that feel in your body saying that to your partner? Like, I feel scared, XYZ. You said this and that. I feel scared because I'm feeling insecure in this moment about XYZ. Like, powerful. And that is so much more effective though than blaming and being like, well, you did this, blah, 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 blah shit. And that's why, and creating a story and projecting that story. It's so much more effective to be like, you know what? I'm creating a story. I'm feeling insecure right now and feel scared versus then projecting the story that and blaming.
And to add like real life context to this, like, so I would say Nathan and I got together in 2007.
Yeah.
And so we've been together a little while. And I hired a coach for the first time in 2015, I think, 2015, 2016, to help me with some shit that I needed to work through, some areas where I knew I really wanted some growth. And I started doing some of this work, and it just like opened up this whole other part of who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become, and what the parts of myself that I really loved and the parts that just really needed some work. And over the next 3 years, like, I had extra, like, huge amount of growth personally, professionally. I was also working in an environment that was amplifying that growth. And then, I'd sort of been doing this stuff for about 3 years, and Nath had not been doing this work. And it really did create a moment where it was like, oh, fuck, I'm growing at this rapid speed. And he's standing still, same job, same career, same people, same ideas. And it was when Nath went in and started doing his work that our relationship just got infinitely better. And I think it's got better every single year since we've both committed to growth being something that's important to Nath, important to me, and important to our relationship.
Yes.
Do you echo that, or am I speaking for you?
No, absolutely. I echo that.
I'm curious too. Nathan, what's your take on that?
What's my take?
That experience, on your experience with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is so easy to be stuck and to not actually even see that you've got work to do because you are, I guess, so stuck in your own little world, and you just think that that's the way that things always are and always need to be. I think it does sometimes take an external person or an external body or something externally, whether it is a trigger or whether it is something else, to actually almost flick that switch for you and go, oh, actually things don't need to be the way that they always have been or the way they always are, or just because I've always had this thought doesn't mean that, or this belief or something like that doesn't mean that that's the way that it always does need to be.
Right. I mean, I've been doing this work for 24 years, right? I still have the accountability because I can't see my shit sometimes still. Like it's important to have somebody that you're accountable to that can see your blind spots. And if we're growing, guess what? Like there's a constant growing, so evolving. So you're going to constantly need to be like, well, if you're of the value of the growth mindset life, if you're valuing it, there's this constant need for you to be like, okay, what else is going on here that I could see differently? Versus, oh my gosh, I don't really want to see something differently because it's going to cause me to change. But you can do that with somebody helping you with reflection. Because we're right. Like we are creatures that want to be safe, right? So it's going to feel unsafe to see something possibly different. And that's why it's important to create that and cultivate that relationship with yourself so that you can relax that nervous system that wants to run the fuck away and be like, no, it's okay to see something different, to consider something different. You are safe. You are safe. It's okay.
And I think something important to note too is that not all of this unpacking is comfortable, and that some of it is painful and things like that too. But I guess I always see it as like going to the gym. Like you don't grow or get stronger or things like that without coming home from the gym and feeling, oh, that was a bit painful. Like that was a bit tough. But that's really the pathway to growth. It's pushing through that hurt barrier, I guess, to be able to rewire and grow.
And to have it sustainable.
Yeah.
So Jess, this has been such an amazing conversation. I would love to round it out with, is there a top tip or maybe a practice from your own relationship for couples to keep their relationship fueled up?
You know what? I asked my wife that because I wanted to know her take too. And we both have different answers. So I'm going to give you both.
Good. Two kinds of fuel.
I'm going to give you both. One, she said, her thing was, she said, babe, no matter what has happened in our journey for these 15 years, we've always made sure we set a date to date ourselves. We have always, even with craziness and like our own traumas and all that, we've still made it important to put it on our calendar, our joint calendar. This is our day this week. Whatever that's going to look like, where it's going to happen, whatever we're doing, I don't know, but this is what we're going to spend time. And it's true. And I actually didn't even think about that. She's like, we've always done that. And that has meant the world to me. For me, I don't know if you're familiar with, I'd imagine, love languages.
Yeah.
So my love language is words, I love words. And at night, we have what's called appreciations. And that has been supportive and beneficial. And that I would highly recommend at night, just being able to reflect and say, babe, I really appreciate you XYZ today, whatever that was. Because you don't know what really landed so deeply and was so like yummy for your partner. Sometimes we don't know. So having that reflection before going to bed together is like everything. Because you're like, oh, I didn't even know that meant something to you like that. And of course, it's going to be like, oh, I'm going to do it again, and it's just a moment of appreciation and it helps not take each other for granted.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful daily practice.
Yeah, the appreciations with one another. Like she's been at times having, a lot going on, and she would stop and help me make my overnight oats for my breakfast in the morning. Just the fact that she prioritized me for a moment when her busy day to help me prepare some things for the next day, like stuff like that. Like it really, those simple things mean a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that idea that relationships aren't made in a day, they're made daily.
Absolutely. So I would definitely recommend that. And also prioritizing, making yourselves important enough to put that date, down, whatever that needs to look. And if it's once every 2 weeks or whatever. And again, be fluid with it. But to not have fun like that, I have to say, hands down, like we have so much damn fun together. We have so much fun. Like even when, we piss each other off or whatever, it's like, okay, what are we going to do? Because it's going to break the tension here.
We need to laugh. We need to be silly. We want to.
Yeah, because your nervous systems relax. Yeah, and then you can talk about, some heavy stuff when you're relaxed. The worst thing you can do is like trying to talk about something heavy when your nervous systems are both triggered. No, you really have to make sure that you're feeling safe before you talk about shit. Like really, because your nervous systems are dysregulated. So yeah.
Jess, this has been such an amazing chat. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
We talked
Thank
a lot about being accountable and taking care of your own shit and being the change that you have influence over in your own life. But we also talk about wanting to be the change in the world that we all occupy here on this beautiful planet Earth. But to say thank you, we've made a contribution to Rainforest Rescue, and they're going to protect 1 square meter of the Daintree rainforest. So thank you so much for making that possible.
Ooh, love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
So Jessica, if people want to connect with you or learn a little bit more about what you do, how should they do that?
You could email me at connect, CONNECT, at jessicav.net, or feel free to find me on IG and you can DM me, and that is at _JessicaV. is my handle there.
We'll pop those things in the show notes as well for everybody. But Jess, thank you so much. It's been beautiful. Thank you for sharing your soul with us and your story, and just go be more fucking amazing.
I intend to unapologetically.
Thanks heaps for joining us. If you love what we're doing here and want more, subscribe to the Date Forever podcast to make sure you never miss an ep. Come and hang out with us and other awesome couples who are fueling up their relationships in the Thriving Couples Collective Facebook group, or check us out at fuelcollective.com.au. Until next time, keep on dating, because better relationships equal a better world.